Welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who is joining in today for my first ever Grand Prix debrief review, the Japanese Grand Prix. And just like that, we have round 3 under the books. That's it. So quickly, and now we have a 5-week break. A 5-week break going into Miami. It's going to be a fascinating break purely because I don't know what to do with my life. But I think it's going to get pretty exciting once we get to Miami. Depending on, I just want to see what the development goes, where it goes essentially. I'm very curious to see what happens with the development leading up to Miami. There you go. Now I can speak. Live streaming is actually a lot trickier than one might understand, because it becomes so difficult to just talk and talk and talk, and then you end up losing sight of what you've said, what you've done. It's an art form. So a lot of these guys, Matt and Tommy P1, then you have Tomo, you have a few other folks as well who do such an amazing job. It's fascinating to see how it all works out. But anyway, it's a skill, and I'm learning, and we're evolving. But yeah, Japan done. What do we think? What did we think? Let's do a quick recap. This was your top 3 from Japan: Kimi Antonelli, Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, and Charles Leclerc rounding off the podium spots. I think it was a fantastic job by the McLarens this weekend, which we'll get into. But Oscar Piastri, fair play to him. Leclerc and the Ferraris battling was absolute gold. I think that was the only moment in the entire race which got you super, super excited. Otherwise, it was... We'll get to where I think the race was, but it was alright. Not too bad, not too shabby. And we have to talk about Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli winning his second race in a row, becoming the youngest championship leader in Formula 1 history. So it will be... We'll talk about it, we'll get into it. But let's talk about race rating. So I'll make it more interactive. I'm going to start using X and Instagram and those things. I'm just waiting to hear back on my Instagram account. Still haven't gotten it back. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I really hope there is a decision to get my account back on Instagram. I do have my backup account, but the community isn't as big right now. So, and I'm not telling anyone purely because if I get my old account back, it'd be great to actually get a poll going using stories and do all of it. So yeah, but Japanese Grand Prix race rating. Now, I sat and pondered quite a lot about this, and part of me really wanted to give it like less than 5 out of 10, obviously. And I was thinking about it, like, the racing was good. There was a lot of action on track, but again, it came down to the battery involvement, right? The deployment, the energy harvesting, and all those things. Like, the overtakes weren't pure. And I think, at times, I think Lando Norris mentioned that he really wanted to... He did not want to pass Lewis Hamilton, but because his battery got deployed, he just had to. So it was a bit weird. And then obviously off the chicane, Hamilton would cut back and take the position back. So it was weird. So, and then, yeah, like, it was okay, entertaining, but not at the same time. So I've gone for a 5 out of 10 in terms of my race rating. Neither here nor there. It was all right. I enjoyed it. Like, Suzuka, watching the cars do their thing in Suzuka is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But I just think that the regulations have, I don't know. The regulations are not allowing currently for pure racing on speed, instinct, and those kind of things. Rather, it's, it's more energy deployment, strategy, tactics, which... Again, it's fun, but in a different realm. Do you know what I mean? The essence of speed. Like, Max Verstappen was saying that when you get to turn 15, which is 130R, until last year, it was flat out absolutely flat out, which is how it should be, right? But what was happening over here was they would get to 130R, turn 15. They would still have their foot to the pedal on the floor, but the battery would be deployed on the straight from 14 to 15, and they would just have what do you call it? No battery. So the car would just slow down, even if your floor's to the your foot to the pedal. Nothing. The car would just slow down, and you would take 130R. You were flat theoretically, but not literally. So yeah, it was interesting. Obviously, there was a major incident as well, which we'll get into. But yeah, I think it was an okay race. I'm very curious to see what the FIA and Formula One will do between now and Miami, just to see in terms of how things can change and if there's a way to save these regulations. But let's get into the race results. All right, here we are. This is your finishing order for the Japanese Grand Prix 2026. Kimi Antonelli, second win in a row, leading the championship now, followed by McLaren's Oscar Piastri. Now, the memes I'm seeing out there have been hilarious, absolutely hilarious. There was one meme, the one where a person is, there are a couple of, it's an image of the inside of a bus, and a guy's sitting next to the window looking at like the beautiful valley, and there's a guy on the other side of the window of the bus looking at the window, and it's just rocks. And the meme goes that Oscar's literally has two options, and that's it. One is does not start, and the other one is if he does, he leads the race from race one. So I think that was pretty hilarious. But Kimi Antonelli, great drive from him. Piastri, as I said, I think for him to start that high up and also maintain position, I mean, he was in for the win at one point, had it not be for the safety car. And I want to talk about the safety car in a bit and how it pertains to Kimi Antonelli. But that's a whole segment I have on Kimi Antonelli. Let's talk about everyone below Kimi Antonelli. Piastri, awesome drive. For him to get an experience of what the 2026 regs are in terms of racing, and for him to just get a clean weekend under his belt is going to do him a load of confidence. Leclerc, again, awesome stuff for him. I mean, Leclerc and Hamilton, their duels, their battles have been stunning, and Charles definitely had his, hand over Lewis Hamilton this weekend. He did an amazing job. Purely, again, you could just see if you watch FP1, 2, 3 quali, Leclerc was fighting that thing every single corner. He was trying to extract as much as he could from it. You look at what was the sequence again? I think it was turns 11, 12, 13 in FP3, and he was literally he had a huge snap in on the exit of 11, huge snap on the exit of 12, huge snap on the exit of 13, and you're just like, oh my word. Like, he was hustling that Ferrari. Awesome job though for Charles. Again, great podium. In terms of George Russell, yeah, that one's a sour one, isn't it? Because George had it was a difficult weekend for him. He was fast, definitely. Again, battery issues coming his way in the race, during quali. It was just a bit of a mess for Russell. So, yeah, and then obviously the safety car timing in the race did not help Russell at all. At all. Like, it was obscene, his luck. He literally pits, comes out, and boom, Bearman goes off, and that's it. And you're like, whoa, what? But yeah, not ideal again. And yeah, I think he needs to... I saw this reel where it was a conversation between Toto Wolff and George Russell, and Russell was basically saying, yeah, like, been pretty unlucky over the last couple of weeks and whatnot, and then Toto's agreeing with them. Could George have done something differently? I think that's a good question to ask, because it literally... how much of it was out of his control? By the sounds of it, a decent amount, right? So you want to be in a position where you're actually on top of the car's doing what you want it to do, so that you can go about and execute in the race or whatever the session is. So yeah, tough weekend for George. But what really was weird was how he couldn't get to the podium. Like, during the start of the race, right, we saw that McLaren, great start from the McLarens, right? They just boosted through. Amazing stuff from the McLarens, both from Oscar and Lando. And then Mercedes just fell back and they were playing catch up. But within 10 laps, it was looking like it was 2014 all over again. They were just, and Jolyon Palmer said that George Russell and Kimi Antonelli were like pretty much just picking up off back markers at that point. So yeah, by lap 20, Mercedes were in the clear air, both of them. And then obviously safety car happened on lap 22, and that pretty much changed the name of the game, and Russell got a bit unlucky. Yes, I would say a lot of it after that was damage control, so I think he did alright. Moving on to Lando Norris. Lando, quite weekend. Great start. Couldn't quite hold position, right, once he got a very good launch of the start. But yeah, I think P5 still not too bad. I think he would have taken it going into what do you call it? Into the race. And yeah, I think he did a pretty phenomenal job. And yeah, points for McLaren. I think overall great weekend for McLaren given where they were last week in China, a couple of weeks ago in China. And I think he's done a good job. Lewis Hamilton P6. Lewis Hamilton was a tough sell for me. Never really got on top of the car this entire weekend. Where did he start? I think he started. Let's have a look. Where did he start? He started. There we are. Hamilton started P6. Lando started P5. So yeah, Oscar started P3, finished P2. Leclerc started P4, finished P3. Russell started P2, finished P4. Lando started P5, finished P5. Lewis started P6, finished P6. So overall, pretty good. Again, like it was neither good or bad for Lewis. I think given the start that they had, I would have expected it to be a little bit better, but obviously it didn't happen. But I don't think Lewis is feeling good with the car. These ups and downs do happen and will happen. But overall, Lewis looks pretty good. Pierre Gasly, P7, started P7. And Pierre, look at that consistency in points. Points in China, points here. Bro's doing well. And he held off Max Verstappen for I don't know how many laps. Oh my god. It was unbelievable. Absolutely. It just seemed like he was never going to let Max through, and he didn't. And Max was just sitting there thinking, okay, mate, where am I going to go through? When am I going to get through? And it just didn't happen. But Pierre, awesome job for him. I think the differential between Gasly and his teammate Colapinto is massive. And we have to talk about that, because does Flavio really want to be seeing Colapinto finishing? Well, I don't even know where he finished. I can't remember where he finished in China, but it wasn't hard. Was it? No, China was a good weekend for Franco. Sorry, China was a good weekend for Franco and Pierre, both in points. There you go, both in points. But overall, on average, I feel like the differential's too big between these two. But yeah, Gasly again points, and he looks so good in that Alpine. He knows maybe it's tactics that he's using, and that Alpine has that Mercedes engine at the back, and it's actually doing all right. It's a culmination of factors, but he just put in a solid drive. Driver of the day, we'll get to that. But we'll get to that. Maybe not. Number 8, Max Verstappen. Yeah, tough one for Max, eh? Started, where did he start? P11, finished P8. Damage control, got a few positions up and finishing the points, but I don't think it's anything massive to boast about, really. There's so much happening with that Red Bull. I think I read an article on motorsport.com where Verstappen was saying that it's not to do with the engine necessarily. Like, they have a good control. They have a good grasp. There you go, grasp. They have a good grasp of the engine. and the deployment and stuff. Obviously, like calibration, those kind of things still can be worked on simulations. But overall, I feel like just the pace, the output, the delivery was, was just compromised by the looks of it. And for Red Bull to start where they did in Australia, where obviously Isaac Hadjar got P3, qualified P3, which is stunning, I think. And for them to be where they are right now has just been a little bit, it hasn't been ideal. Not at all for Max and Isaac and just the whole Red Bull team. All of a sudden, they're a midfield team. And it's not ideal. Like, you look at the top 6, and it's the Mercedes pair, the McLaren pair, and the Ferrari, and then best of the rest was Pierre Gasly today. Not even Max Verstappen. So apart from Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari, like, it's not the top 4 now. It's the big 3 all of a sudden. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Red Bull come swinging hard in Miami. But again, it's going to be a while until that happens. So yeah, for Max, I don't know how many times he was lining up the same move on Pierre. I think I saw it happen more than, 10 times. But he could never stick it through. He wanted to, obviously, but the car didn't allow him to do that, which was very odd. P9 then, Liam Lawson. Fantastic drive. Liam started P14 and finished in the points. I think the safety car did help him, but again, he had to bring it home because his teammate started P10, Lindblad, who outqualified Max Verstappen, and he finished P14. So Liam Lawson is slowly, creating a reputation. And I like what I'm seeing from Liam over the last couple of weekends. He's been very solid. 2 points finishes in a row. Awesome stuff. Number 10, Esteban Ocon. Come on, mate. Ocon finally coming through. Started P12, finished P10. Good job from Ocon. He needed that. He needed a weekend where he outperformed Bearman, and he did across the weekend. He looked a little bit more comfortable than Ollie Bearman. Obviously, Ollie Bearman didn't finish the race, which we'll get into, but even qualifying, I think Bearman qualified P18, right? Esteban P12, so there's a differential between those two. So, good job overall. Esteban, clean race, nothing too crazy to talk about. Made advantage of the safety car, did what he could, and P10 in the points. He's gotten his account opened with points in Japan, so stunning from him. Nico Hülkenberg. Now we're talking guys that didn't get points. P11. Nico Hülkenberg started P13, finished P11. I think decent result. Would definitely have preferred getting points. Oh, wow. Hello. Yeah, would have loved getting points, but it just wasn't meant to be for Nico. Good race overall. Nothing much to talk about for Nico. Just a good solid drive. Number 12, Isaac Hadjar in the Red Bull. Tough gig for Isaac. He was stuck behind Arvid Lindblad for so long, and one would question Arvid's defense tactics. He was moving a lot under braking, and just you can't weave around like that. Like, when you have, let me show this. So I'm gonna, that's gonna work. But when you're following a car, okay. So let's say that's Lindblad. Okay, here we go. There we go. This is how I'm gonna do it. So that's Isaac Hadjar. You got Lindblad. Lindblad's the car that is defending, okay? If you're coming out of a corner and you have a guy coming really quick behind you, you're only allowed one move. So either if he's here, if he's positioned and Isaac's trying to come here, that's all Lindblad can do. Now, if Isaac goes here, you're not allowed to just go back and forth, and just completely block off Isaac Hadjar if he has more pace. So you got to be very careful. And Lindblad, it was, I think he got a black and white flag for it. But a little bit dangerous. But for Isaac, started where did he start? P8. Isaac Hadjar started P8, finished P12. It wasn't great, to be fair, from Isaac Hadjar. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do once they get to Miami and this 5-week development window, let's just call it now, because the Red Bulls need to find something. Max will always find, if Max is finishing P8, that's all the car has. I think it's very fair to assume that. And for Hadjar to start P8 and slip down to P12, come on, like it's concerning. 4 spots is not ideal, but let's see. P13, Gabriel Bortoleto. Bortoleto started P9, finished P13. Not an ideal weekend for Gabriel Bortoleto. Now, a lot of these guys have had issues because of the safety car, right? Came in at the wrong time and whatnot, and then overcut, undercut kind of just played into it, and that's why a lot of these drivers dropped positions, which happens. That's the name of the game. Clean weekend still. I think, did it have... Where could Bortoleto and someone like Hulkenberg have finished? Maybe where P9, P10 would have been like maximum, because Gasly, Verstappen and stuff were just a lot quicker, to be fair. Like Max was up a decent amount of positions after a few laps. So did alright. Bortoleto, fair enough. Lindblad P14, started P10, just fell back afterwards. Yeah, I think it was a strong drive from Lindblad. Again, just getting another race under his belt, but I don't think it was his best. Especially when you look at like defending. It did look a bit sketchy with Hadjar, and Hadjar, rightly so, was super, super frustrated and infuriated. But it's okay. Kind of happens at times, and I'm sure he's a rookie. He's going to learn and, develop and just get better. So, yeah, unlucky at times, but yeah, overall, good job from Lindblad. P15, the first of the Williams, Carlos Sainz. Sainz started P16, finished P15. I saw this reel from James Vowles that, the car's just not good enough, and we kind of know that now. Yeah, not ideal at all, I think, for Carlos. He maximized as much as he could, and it's just sad to see, right? Carlos being primed. Audi poached him. Audi wanted him. And, not poached, sorry, approached. Audi approached Carlos. There was a big discussion. Carlos's dad, Carlos Sainz Sr., wanted Carlos to sign with Audi, but Carlos decided to go to Williams. Last year was a decent year at Williams, and it was, obviously, Audi was Sauber back then, and Sauber just did Sauber things. They had obviously P3 with Nico, but Carlos really wanted his son to go to Audi, but Carlos Sainz decided to go to Williams. And yeah, it's tough for Carlos Sainz. I just feel like I'd love to be a fly on the wall at Carlos's home just to hear what his thoughts are about Williams right now. For some reason, it's not looking... they are very unhappy, and the synergies, I don't know if there's some cracks starting to appear. I don't know. I do not want to speculate so early on, but Carlos really did. Yeah, it was just, you see him and you're like, oh my God, it's so sad. But let's see what happens again. The 5-week window coming up is going to be fascinating. P16 then, Franco Colapinto. Colapinto started P15, finished P16. Now, Franco's been... I don't know. I don't know what to think of Franco Colapinto. He came in, he drove for Williams, had a few good races, then obviously had a lot of crashes. Last year with Alpine, when he got... when he replaced Jack Doohan, again, same thing. But it wasn't a... like, he's not convincing me. Like, Jack Doohan has had similar results to Franco Colapinto by the time Franco hit 5 races. So the only reason Franco would be in the team would be... Again, I'm not going to speculate, but I think it's pretty obvious. But yeah, Franco, like, if your teammate is finishing P7, I don't think you should be finishing P16. And how much longer until they realize that You know, like Franco, like at what point does Franco have a deadline where he needs to perform by? You know, I'd be curious to know. Sergio Perez, P17. I think a Cadillac finishing a race. It's pretty good stuff, actually. The Cadillac finished, which was very nice. They had a good bit of, ahead of the Aston Martins. I think it's pretty fair. It's all right. Nothing to, celebrate about anything, but ahead of Albon, Albon, again, miserable weekend from Albon, but Perez, good job, P17, probably he maximized the weekend for Cadillac. Alonso, finished a race, big thing, big accomplishment for Aston Martin, but it's aura farming at its highest, wasn't that Aston Martin at the beginning of the year, and like coming into just thinking, oh, Aston Martin's going to be this next big thing, and it's going to be stunning, and they're going to, be fast, not fast, but like be there or thereabouts at the top of the midfield, kind of. That's what we were thinking. And completely the opposite. We're celebrating an Aston Martin race win. Who would have thought? Like, genuinely, I never would have expected it. But yeah, tough stuff for Fernando, but at least he finished. I hope his hands are okay and he's not injured and whatnot. But yeah, Valtteri Bottas, P19. Again, nothing to riff off. He was a whole lap down when the race finished, and yeah, again, the delta between Bottas and Perez, again, there's nothing to talk about really. You kind of expect them to be in that position, and yeah, Alex Albon, P20, last of the finishing drivers. Miserable weekend for Alex Albon. I think it was atrocious for him. Pretty tough. Couldn't get on top of the car. Albon qualified. Where did he qualify? P17, just behind Carlos. And then during qualifying, we all could see, we heard that team radio from Albon, right? Where he was like, hey, where's the gap between me and Carlos? Where am I losing time? And his engineer goes, you wouldn't want to know, mate. Come on, you don't say that. You don't want to know, mate. And then he's like, yeah, you kind of know actually where you're losing time. And Albon pretty much just, frustratingly says that, hey, for the last 3 races, I've been saying the same thing. But again, it's down to my driving or whatever. So for Albon, yeah, I don't know if it's something to do with his driving style that he's not able to extract as much as Carlos with the Williams. But he needs to figure out a way to match what Carlos is doing. Given Carlos is still... How long has Albon been at Williams now? Well, he's been there for 22 onwards? Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5th season for Albon in the Williams. And yeah, he's... Carlos has more podiums than Albon as well. So... yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for a lot of these guys, right? We'll see. And then the 2 non-finishers, Lance Stroll. Pretty funny one, actually, Lance Stroll. The reason I say funny is I was watching P1 with Matt and Tommy in their live stream for the race. And Matt pretty much goes, oh, look at that. Lance Stroll might be finishing a race this Sunday, and then today, and literally within a couple of laps, Lance, box, we got to retire the car. It was hilarious. But yeah, no, Lance, I think, again, he was saying, how Aston Martin have their own mini championship amongst themselves, and that's kind of the drill. Nothing more to be said about Aston Martin. And then Ollie Bearman. I think the big talking point of this weekend is Ollie Bearman and the repercussions this could have on the 2026 regulations, which we will get into. And do you know what? Let's talk about, very quickly, our race winner. Kimi Antonelli, beautiful drive, got a lot of luck from the safety car, but did an amazing job. He still had to bring it home, still had to get everything done. And second race win in a row, and the youngest ever driver to lead a Formula One World Championship. So... good stuff. And, it's nice to see the rise of Kimi Antonelli. I think he's done an absolutely stunning job coming to grips with the 2026 car, the regulations, but also, performing when you get a chance and taking the most out of those opportunities and those slim, windows of opportunities. Like, we got a safety car, sure, it fell into his hands, but then again, he had to bring it home. Safety car came out on lap 22 of 53, so we weren't even halfway there, but he had to still get everything done, right? So, awesome job. And I think even though he had a very poor start, making up those positions as quickly as he could, I think he did a fantastic job. So, kudos to Kimi. He is in the lead of the Jarvis Championship. Now, I don't want to speculate this early on into the season. George will have his comeback. Could we get into Abu Dhabi? And I hope Abu Dhabi happens, firstly. Let's see. But could we get a situation where we get to Abu Dhabi and we have these two fighting for the championship? Kind of like Lewis and Nico in 2016, 15, 14. But I don't want to see one guy... Well, it's okay if it happens, but I would love to see two guys fighting for the championship until the end, because that's what keeps, the fans engaged and everything. Otherwise, it'll just be a repeat of like Lewis going on from 2017 to 2020 to 2020, and then you obviously had 14 as well, sorry. And then you had Vettel from 2010 to 2013, just like pretty much wiped the floor, apart from 2012, which was a very good season. One of the best Formula 1 seasons ever. Kimi, awesome job, man. But I think what we really, really need to discuss is this. The key moment in the race was Bearman's crash. And I think the ramifications of this need to be addressed ASAP by Formula 1 and the FIA. And I think they've said that they are going to do it. But for those of you who didn't watch the race or I'm not too sure as to what happened, essentially we were coming into turn 13 and Ollie Bearman was behind Franco Colapinto. Franco Colapinto ahead of him was slowing down because he was harvesting energy and saving up energy for the back straight out of turn 14, and he was basically downshifted a single gear, but Ollie Bearman was coming behind him with I think a 45 to 50 kilometer differential. 40 to 50 k's faster than Colapinto. And so it's not a straight. It's a bit of a curve, right? It's a very slight kink going into turn 13. And at that point, essentially, Bearman was coming in. The closing in speed was so fast that Bearman? I just did a Davide Valsecchi. Oh my God. Ollie Bearman essentially came in so fast that he had to react. One could argue that Franco did move a little bit. Let's be real. I think he did move a little bit, but I don't think that movement from Colapinto was big enough to swerve Ollie Bearman. I think Ollie Bearman would have had to swerve either way. So then he lost traction, spun around, and essentially hit the wall. So you could watch Ollie Bearman, the impact. Look at that side pod. It's scary. A 50G impact sideways. Luckily, it wasn't straight on. Sideways is a lot better. But again, look at that side pod damaged. Absolutely gone. But again, Max Verstappen and everyone is saying this, right? You cannot have this. And Carlos Sainz has been very vocal about this, saying you can't have this much closing in speed differential, because right now in Japan we had a runoff area. Okay, you see there's to the left there's no barrier right there. Now imagine if this was Azerbaijan, right, or Las Vegas, any of those big street circuits. If this thing happens in those circuits, it's not a 50G crash. It's going to be a massive hit. More. more so, with this accident, we already saw Ollie Bearman limping. And, when he got out of the car, I thought, okay, when they panned the camera to him, it looked pretty bad. Like he was clutching onto his ankle, had to sit down. And, if there was a race this week, I think potentially, unlikely, but potentially Jack Doohan would have had to have replaced Bearman if he wouldn't have recovered. But given we have 5 weeks now, he probably will recover. But I think this is the moment, like the FIA and F1 surely need to have a look into this. Now, I think it was F1 or FIA have been saying that, they're going to look into it during this break. And they've said we're going to have a look, investigate. Max Verstappen has been seen, I think he was invited by Stefano Domenicali for a private dinner. And he's basically come in, and I think they're just going to listen to Max. But Max Verstappen predicted these issues back in 2023, 3 years ago. But this was so scary. It was such a scary thing. And, Bearman's okay, but I think it's too dangerous. I did a reel on this as well, which has been loved by a lot of people. But this is just too sketchy, in my opinion. Like, you can't be... Like, what are we doing? Are we pretty much just playing Mario Kart? And obviously that was... that's a funny story in itself. How we had the cast of Mario right there. Jack Black, Anya Taylor, John Joy, Chris Pratt, all those guys. And I think just it's so comical in terms of what's happened with the Mario Kart comments about the cars being, just having that, catching the mushroom and going straight down, blitzing past their opponents on the back straights. And then, just having those Mario Kart characters or actors coming in. It was a horrific marketing campaign. But anyway, something needs to be done very quickly, because this was super, super concerning. And in my reel that I created, which is done, which has got a lot of attention from a lot of fans, they were saying, hey, things could get a lot worse. And by a lot worse, you know what I mean, like some severe injuries and some severe issues as well. And like just Bearman with that injury as well, like it's not ideal. So I really hope Formula One and FIA really look into this, and how could we create a much better racing setup? Maybe I don't really know what the solution could look like. I'm no engineer, but I really hope they figure out something. All right. So what I did in my prediction videos is I predicted a Ripper driver of the weekend and a Ripper team of the weekend, and a shocker driver of the weekend and a shocker team of the weekend. So I want to start with the Ripper. There you go. Ripper driver of the weekend. For me, Liam Lawson. I think stunning drive from Liam. Very mature as well. He did everything that he could and extract the most. 2 races, 2 set of points. Obviously, the safety car played into his character. What am I saying? Into his safety car played into his strategy very, very well. And he did an amazing job being, in the points. And you can see that he's really, really matured. And I just wonder, had Red Bull let him be in the Red Bull last year, what he could have done? Probably not as good as Max, for sure. But I just think 2 races was brutal. And now he's just, he's on this like revenge tour, proving people wrong, proving everyone wrong. So P14 to P9. Yes, a bit of aid from the safety car. But of course, man, like stunning stuff. Like, why not? And the other close contender I had for driver of the weekend, we had a few good drives. We had obviously Oscar Piastri do a stunning job. He could have, arguably been in contention for the win, maybe, given his team radio. Number 1, that's my source number 1. But 2, because he he's just had a stunning weekend, like in terms of qualifying and whatnot. And the other driver, I would say, Esteban Ocon did a very good job finishing the points. But I think Liam Lawson just showed that maturity. And it's just good to see Liam do well, given what he has been through. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, Liam Lawson, Ripper Driver of the Week. Ripper Team of the Week, McLaren. I would say McLaren. Great job from both the drivers, P2 and P5, I think it was. Great stuff. I think Lando would have definitely wanted a little bit more, but given where we were and how things unfolded, and given they just didn't even start in China, I think they'll both take the results that they had. And McLaren, yeah, awesome stuff. I had them as a shocker of the team of the weekend for this week, but they have proven me very, very wrong. And low-key, I'm glad. A couple of other teams, I would say, who have done very well. Obviously, Ferrari was slightly on the back foot, but they made the most of it. McLaren, we know. Haas in the points again. Alpine with Pierre Gasly doing very, very well. And I would say, Cadillac, I wouldn't never call them Ripper right now. But again, I think for both cars to finish the race, get the data, extract everything, problem solve, figure it out, move on. Awesome stuff. And yeah, I think stunning job. VCarb as well in the points again. Their car is very, very quick. I think Arvid could have done a bit more this weekend. But again, rookie, Suzuka, difficult stuff. Stunning job. And then we have Shocker Driver of the Week. I think we have a few contenders for it. Isaac Hadjar, not the best weekend. P8 to P12. Not ideal. For Hadjar, we had who else? Bortoletto started from P9, finished P13 as well. But I think my shocker driver of the weekend, Franco Colapinto. Couple of reasons. Number one, purely the differential there is between himself and his teammate it's abominable. It's too big in my opinion. Gasly finished 32 seconds behind the race leader right? And then you obviously had Colapinto finish 65 seconds behind the race leader. So more than half of the difference. That's how further back Colapinto was to Gasly. And he just seemed to go nowhere. Started P15, finished one spot behind. And one could also argue, and this is my second reason, is that and this is something I realized when I was reading comments on the reel I posted for the race review on my Instagram and TikTok and whatnot, which was during the Ollie Bearman incident, when you are harvesting energy at that point, right? You are aware that someone is coming from behind, and then he had this small wiggle. Not wiggle, like he moved to the left just a touch. I don't know if it was to defend. I'm not too sure. He hasn't said it. But if his intention was to defend at that point, I don't quite know if that was the right thing to do, given you are 45 to 50 kilometers slower than the car coming behind you. Obviously, he wouldn't have known that. That's the thing. But then if you're harvesting, for all you know, Ollie Bearman could have been harvesting energy behind Colapinto as well. But that was not the case. So was Franco at fault there? I don't know. But was he a contributing factor to Ollie Bearman swerving? Probably. Which is why I think it wasn't the best. But also, my main reason is how far behind he was in comparison to Pierre Gasly the entire weekend. So for me, Franco needs to seriously improve. I don't think Flavio would have been happy with his performance. given where Pierre Gasly is finishing these days and how consistent Pierre has been. So I hope that Franco figures this out. And, he's a good guy. We love Argentina, football. Any sportsman from Argentina is pretty awesome. And I hope he sticks around, but I think he just needs that. He needs to find something because, Flavio, I think, would not be a happy man. Because they can be... The fact that a Williams finished ahead of him, isn't it? No. Yes, Carlos Sainz finished P15. Alpine is not there. Alpine should not be fighting a Williams right now. That should not be happening, period. But for him to be doing that and competing in Carlos Sainz finishing ahead of him, yes, okay, safety car could have played a little bit of a role, but yeah, your teammates finishing P7 and you're finishing P15, 16. Probably needs to be. We got to figure that out. Shocking team of the week for me, with a very heavy heart, shall we say, a very, very heavy heart. The Red Bulls. Not a good weekend all round. They've had an issue, both from, China wasn't the best, and then this weekend they've just plummeted. And I'm just, being a Red Bull guy, I think, obviously I'm wearing Haas, but being a Red Bull fan and a Max fan, it's tough to see Red Bull where they are. And here's the thing. With the McLarens, it's they had battery issues in China. With Mercedes, we know that Georgia's having battery issues as well. I'm just not too sure what's happening with Red Bull, purely because they started off the season very strongly in Australia. Max starting P16, or P20, sorry, and finishing P6. Awesome job from Max. Okay, but what's happened all of a sudden in China, and what's happened in Japan? Japan should have mirrored Melbourne, right? In terms of the track composition. The Cats tracks. Give them the tracks characteristics for energy deployment. It should have matched Melbourne, which means that on paper Red Bull should have been a lot better here, but it wasn't. So difficult weekend. I think they've got a lot of work to do. Max has been the first one saying we need to go back to Milton Keynes and figure out what is going on with the car, because they seem to have lost a little bit of grip on it, and that's why I think this 5-week break is going to be not a break. This 5-week window is going to be a huge bane for a lot of teams to figure out what's exactly going on. And I think Red Bull will be the first people to say, hey, we need those 5 weeks. I think followed by Williams and whatnot. So again, speculations that the Red Bull is a little bit overweight as well. That was coming out before the race. So let's see. I hope Red Bull can figure it out. But yeah, they're not even the best of the rest. That was Alpine today, for Japan. So, good job from Max, I guess. If even, more of a consolation, a couple of points. But overall, they need to figure it out. But I think the good thing for Red Bull is the drivers. They've got both drivers. They're doing all right. They're doing a good job. They're close to each other. I think that's a huge positive for them. So, there we have it. This is what the Drivers' Championship looks like after round 3. Very top 6. You have the Mercedes 1-2, Ferrari 3-4, McLaren 5-6, which for me, McLaren being 5 and 6 is pretty awesome given where they were. And for Oscar to be P6 right now after only one race finish is even more phenomenal. And then best of the rest as it stands is Ollie Bearman right now. But we had predicted this at the start of the season that the Haas and the Alpine are going to fight each other. But Ollie Bearman currently has that edge. But Pierre Gasly is slowly making his way up. And then it's so funny you see Pierre. Wow, My God, it's the afternoon and I'm still yawning. It was a long weekend, guys. It was a long weekend. I was covering IndyCar and Formula One. But no, what I was trying to point out here is P7, P8, Ollie Bearman and Pierre Gasly and the teammates respectively of 15th and 16th, and Esteban Ocon and Franco Colapinto on a point each. So the battle of the best of the rest right now is being won by Haas, clearly. And yeah, the rest of the driver standings, I think Kimi Antonelli, 72 points, a solid 9 points ahead of George Russell. Can they continue? Can he continue going to Miami? This championship could look very different after the Miami Grand Prix, purely because, again, the 5-week window is a long time in Formula One to see what happens. I think if you are Kimi Antonelli, you want to have races as frequently as possible. If you're someone like Max Verstappen, you want to have that time, as much time as possible between races to develop the car. So there you have it. That's the drivers. And let's look at constructors now. This is the picture. And this is what I was saying. Mercedes well away right now with a 45-point gap to Ferrari. The McLaren is pretty much half that in P3. And then your P4 right now is Haas. Haas have had a solid start to the year. I would have been curious to see if Ollie Bearman wouldn't have crashed out in Japan, where he would have finished. But I think it's been nonetheless, when Bearman's not doing well, Ocon does well. When Ocon isn't doing well, Bearman does well. So that's kind of yin and yang approach that Haas have had-ish, kind of. But yeah, I think that's, top 3 kind of expected. And then Haas, Alpine's not too far away, just 2 points away. I think if Franco really, pulls up his socks and goes at it, I think he'd be, that Alpine can easily go to P4. The biggest outlier for me, man, it's the Red Bull. P6 right now. Equal points with Alpine. Who would have thought after last year when Alpine finished P10 in the constructors, right? That Red Bull would be on equal points with Alpine after round 3 in 2026. That's a huge surprise. Racing Bull 7th. Again, P4 to P7 are just different, are separated by 4 points. It's still anyone's game, and obviously so early on. So it's good to see, and we're going to keep track of this the entire year as well. And then obviously, for 8, 9, 10, 11, Audi P8, which is, best of the lower end teams. Williams, again, Carlos picked up those 2 points. But yeah, it's just not ideal at all for Williams, is it? Just sad to see them so further down the list. It's just a heartbreaker, man. It's so tough to, if you're Carlos or Albon, oh man, what do you do? But yeah, P9 for Williams. Audi should be pretty happy given, they're finishing, they are P8 right now, 2 points on the board on equal terms with Williams. Between those 4, it's going to be their own little tussle. Actually, not even that. Audi, Williams are their own battle. Cadillac, Aston Martin are their own battle. And then you have, the top 3, which are going to fight for their own thing. And then from 4 to 7, you got that. So you have these 4 groups. 1 to 3 is one group. 4 to 7 is one group. 8 and 9 are one group. 10 and 11 are one group. So it's a weird one. But Mercedes are well ahead. But there you have it. That's round 3 done. That was my review of the Japanese Grand Prix in 2026. And now we have a crazy thing happening in the form of a 5-week break. So, what are we going to be doing for 5 weeks? Well, luckily we have IndyCar. We'll have a weekend or 2 weekends of IndyCar, I think. 1 weekend of IndyCar on April 18th or 19th, I think. I forgot where it was. I will be covering that because there is no Formula One. That's going to be pretty fun. But between now and the next race in Miami, 5 weeks, I think it gives us a lot of chance to just recalibrate. But I'll be posting a lot of stuff. I'll be creating a lot more videos. There are so many things to talk about is Verstappen going to retire at the end of this year? That's a huge question. And there's so many sources pointing to the fact that he might. 2, who's going to be Audi's new team principal? We need to know that, right? And there's so many contenders for it. So that's going to be 2. What else? Can Red Bull find something in the next 5 weeks? Can Williams find something? Can they shed some weight? What about the driver market? Pretty early on. How are the boys doing? Is Colapinto going to be around? We don't know. So there's so much happening. And for a lot of these guys, these 5 weeks will allow them to really, really reset and just gain. It'd be good to get them to actually figure it out. But the biggest thing is, are the regulations going to see a change before Miami? That is what we'll be keeping our eyes on. So stay tuned. Please, if you've liked this live stream, like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, use the chat, do your thing. What would you like to see? What topics are, on the forefront of your mind with this 5-week break that we have that you want to have answered? I'd love to do that as well. And obviously, Miami's 5 weeks away. We'll be covering that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I thoroughly did. This is so new for me as well. But yeah, I'm Satch the F1 guy on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Well, Instagram, it is Satch the F1 guy, but that account got suspended. I'm trying to get it back. But I have another backup account called Satchin the F1 guy. So there's Satch the F1 guy, which is my nickname, Satch. And then Satchin the F1 guy. So links are down below. Go follow. And then, as I said, like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you all very